Hey, ghoul friends. It's me, Adrian, or Aiden. Either way, I am still your host, but you are not listening to Susto this week. Welcome to the 2025 Susto SWAP-A-THON. That is right. I feel like I primed you already for this. I gave you all the heads up. In the month of December, I am taking time off from the production cycle of Susto, and I am bringing to you shows that I think that you will enjoy as much as I do. So I'm sorry, you're probably going to get sick of hearing this specific introduction for these next couple weeks throughout December, but I just wanted to make sure to remind you all about what is going on so that when you hear this, you're not like, what the hell, where's Aiden? Did he ghost us? You get it? Kidding, I would never do that to you. However, I would like to introduce you to some more content and more creators that I really think that you would enjoy. If you do, please make sure that you go to these shows' pages, that you follow them wherever they are available. And yeah, I will be back in 2026. I hope that you are having a wonderful holiday season. As I mentioned before the break started, I'm still online. So just because there are no new Susto episodes, believe me, you all know I'm chronically online, so you can find me on there. Feel free to send me a message, send me an email. I love hearing from you all, and continue to send in your letters from the beyond by visiting sustopodcast.com or my link tree so that we can have some fun stuff to talk about come 2026, which I can't believe that this year happened already. That's wild to me. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get into today's feature. I really hope that you enjoy it, and I will see you all in the next year. Bye.
All right, back again.
Here we are.
What are we talking about today? We are talking about, shadow beings, people?
Shadow shit.
Well, shadow beings, shadow people. Start there. What's the language?
Well, Heidi trademarked shadow people. So I think, is that the technical term?
I don't know. So that's Heidi Hollis, who was, I guess this would have been the last episode, Heidi Hollis's episode, which is why we're going to be talking about shadow people. But also, we had a conversation with our good friend Ryan
from EVP, Everything Vaguely Paranormal.
We love them,
which probably will come out after this one.
Yes, yeah. Well, it was last night. He came over to the house and we recorded an episode, but we were just hanging out. I mean, I don't think he left until almost 3.
Yeah.
It was late. But we started talking about his experiences with these shadow beings because we had that very similar one at Waverly with the waving. And he had mentioned something last night that I've noticed in my encounters with these things, which is you'll be wherever you are and you'll notice this sort of blackness or shadow start to overtake a certain area, and you know that that's almost like it feels like it's forming.
Which I think that is how he kind of described it, that it's like eventually kind of forms into this shadow person. Yeah,
and then so we're going to get there because I think I want to know about your experiences and how often that happens to you and if it's situational. But then this morning, we actually recorded an episode for our other podcast, RGO, The Real Ghosts Of, and it was a listener story. And this woman was talking about shadow spiders.
Shadow spiders. We're just on a shadow fucking kick right now.
We're on a shadow kick. But before we get into shadow anything, let's talk about Family Seance Night that happened a few nights ago.
So we're just like doing complete 180. Also, do I sound weird to you?
No.
It sounds muffled.
Muffled?
In my headphones.
I don't know.
My voice.
No.
I don't know. Maybe my voice is just muffled.
Maybe. But, no, it is kind of a 180 because that was it was a really groovy time, wasn't it? It was a wild experience.
I don't know if groovy is the word it was weird as fuck.
Well, what it was. Why don't you start out with, because, we had people come over, some of the Patreon family, and
yes, we occasionally will invite over our Para Academy bruvs out to the Para house so we can do, in person, getting weird. And we did live stream it as well for our brethren who are out of state or not able to make it because we still wanted them to be able to participate.
Yes. Why don't you start though with, you had actually put together a really great way to get things started. And I think it really set the tone. I think it really got the people that were here in the mindset to make what happened happen.
Yeah, we got witchy with it.
Yeah,
So,
go on and lay that out.
yeah, well, you know, one of the perks of having people over to the Para House is all of my, you know, shit is here. So it's a lot easier to do things like that versus when we're out, you know, I don't necessarily have like a witch on the go bag or anything, you know? So
That is absolutely something we should note down, and you should just make them and sell them.
a witch on the go bag.
Nicole's witch on the go bag.
Witch on the go for the witch on the go.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I personally, anytime I'm doing any sort of spirit communication, whether it's, you know, some sort of working or seance night or even the investigations that we do, I personally would love to be able to do something like this at, you know, at the beginning of every single one of our investigations, honestly. But
well, I think it's actually something that you know, we've talked about a lot, and I know the time that you did it that I'm reminded of is when we did Stonebriar. And I mean, we definitely had a weird time there, but yeah, I remember you came in, you did that whole
well, I did it there for, it was more like cleansing and containing purposes. I did more of a binding there to try to help them out. But yeah, so I just wanted to do something special and do a little intention setting, but kicked up a few notches, because when we're talking about something like seances or even just spirit communication in general, whether or not you identify as a medium, I mean, intention is everything, right? And I think really just getting into that headspace of communication, I think there's something to be said for that, you know, and even when we go to locations, when I'm going to do a walk or something, typically you'll see me, you know, I'll kind of like sit or lay down somewhere or whatever and kind of just get in tune with the energy of the place.
Well, it's the same reason we use certain devices and techniques to try to put you in a different brainwave state.
Altered headspace. Yeah. Altered brainwave states. So, that was kind of the intention for that, was to get everybody in the zone, if you will. So yeah, I'm trying to remember I mean, do you want me to spell out everything I did, or like what we did overall?
I remember a lot of it. It was a whole group exercise. You know, you had the key, everyone passed that around. That was great. You had them all write down the question that they were wondering for the evening. And then that was all burned with, they would pick a coin and put that in there.
So we burned it, but specifically when we were burning it, we burned the question, you know, releasing that into the ether for the spirits. But we did that in conjunction with also giving offerings to the spirits. So everybody, you know, put in some coins to the cauldron. We put in some herbs that are good for honoring spirits, ancestors, whatever, pass it around. And then, yes, I used one of my personal oils from my collection, like a Spirit Speaks Psychic flying oil custom blend that we had everybody use. And for me personally, I like to put a little bit in my hands, in my palms, and rub it together. And then also smell it, because I'm a big, you know, sensual person.
Now,
and so
do you think the oils are important because of anything other than that sensual, I don't say sensual, but sense, right? That sensory part of it, like the smell, the rubbing it on, like, is that a big part of it? Or do you think it's like the herbs coming together to make this magical potion?
Well, for me personally, I feel like anytime you're able to involve all of the senses, ideally, it's going to make it more potent and powerful. Like when we're talking about doing something like altering our brainwave states, you want to try to hit all of the senses, right? And so we had the music going on in the background that's really setting a mood. We have the smoke going from the incense that we're burning. We have we're feeling the coins and putting that in and hearing the sound of the coins dropping into the cauldron. We're seeing the candlelight flicker, because we were doing this only by candlelight. And we did set a circle as well. And then we have the oil and we're smelling that, you know, it just, it's a whole artistic piece, really. All encompassing.
Yeah.
So yeah, making sure that we're, giving offerings.
Yeah.
for the spirits.
Which I think also, if I'm being honest, I think a big piece of that is it also gets you in that space, right? It's another ritualistic thing to do where you think in your mind, like, if I'm giving this offering, like, this is something that's going to help. Like, this is something that's going to bring about what I'm trying to do.
Well, right. And I think also from the other side of it too, anytime I do a working or anything, and typically anything that I'm doing, it is using spirits. And I did actually even bring down my personal skull cap that I use and that I work with. Yeah. So I did bring that down as well, because that's a lot of, for my personal practice, I work with spirits, and it's just always, I'm not going to, even with you, I'm not going to come ask you like, hey, Damien, can you go do this, big task for me? Thanks. Like,
you're just okay, well, use you're going to be cap and do a spell I don't know about to get you to do things.
No, you're going to be a bit more inclined to do it if I do something nice for you first, right? Like, I don't know, maybe I bake you a cake, and then I'm like,
if I'm around and you're like, a random cake has been baked for me, I'm like, what did you do?
What did you do?
Yeah, what did you do?
I've made a couple cakes.
We have, yeah. And actually, we'll get to more about your cooking because of last night. But yeah, we did all these things. It got everyone in the mood, and to sort of
everybody's in the zone.
In the zone, and we had a Ouija board down here,
we did.
And we had a radio. So we'll get to the radio in a bit because we didn't start with it. We started with the Ouija board, and we had a few of the people here that were using. I think it was 3 people, and we started. I don't remember exactly the chain of events, but I want to hit on these. So one of the big ones was, like we said, we had people write down questions, put them, and they got burned. Well, one of the people that was with us was taking charge of writing everything down that came through. We kept referring to them as the scribe. And then there was another person here that I said, hey, your question that you asked, go ahead and whisper it in her ear. Okay, and on the other end of the table, there's the people using the Ouija board. Well, they started getting relevant answers to her question.
Yes.
That was only relevant. Whispered to.
And the question, let's just also say, was related to extraterrestrial beings, which is relevant because of where this goes.
Rachel's wild. She's wild and she's amazing. But yeah, it was a question related to that.
Well, it makes sense because she's literally followed by these things.
Yeah.
Shout out Rachel. We love you so much.
Yeah.
But what was weird is after she, whispers the question and then stuff starts coming through on the board, I think first it went to, I think we got yes, and then it went to the moon.
Well, that's the weird one for me.
Which was directly relevant and ended up being essentially a direct response to her question. But yes, the moon.
Yeah.
We both have done many seances. We've done many events.
Thousands, I'm sure, since yes. And you and I have talked about this now for the last couple of days.
Yeah. We've never seen the board go to the moon.
Which is interesting because of the way I look at how these boards work, and I do feel that that's correct. But you wouldn't think. There's something like in your mind that is almost limiting you from going to these areas that don't mean anything typically on the board. So I think that's why that doesn't typically happen. But this did. It went right to the moon image, which is up there. And at first we're like, what? And then it was Rachel, and you can see her just like, well, she knew. And then after that, we asked the scribe what the question was. I can't remember what the question was, but it was a direct
it was extraterrestrial related. And yeah, they were immediately like, that's a direct answer. So we're like, okay, so actually let's just try this radio, which is so funny because that's even, I don't know, I guess an odd synchronicity or coincidence. I don't know, whatever the appropriate word would be as to why it was down here, because I had set everything up earlier and I was getting everything down and I'm bringing all the ritual stuff down, and I happened to see, as I was grabbing the board from the museum, I happened to see the little radio and it's just kind of laying there and I'm like, I'm just going to grab it. I just like something was like,
it's worth noting.
Just put that down there too.
I personally like using radios in that seance environment because there is something about that static in a candlelit room with this activity going on.
All the senses, right?
Yeah. And I think because of the fact that I see a radio, much like a Ouija board, it is just a technology that is manipulated or used in a way to communicate with whatever. No, I was glad we had it. But it's interesting because before we even started the radio, things were starting to kind of happen around the house. People were noticing things.
Well, you could feel the energy shift. And that's, another reason why I wanted to do the ritual to kind of open it up. Because, of course, everybody gets here and, we're having wine and we're having snacks and we're hanging out. And, like, we all fucking love each other. We're fucking bruvin', And so
It's
we got to
family
kind of,
seance
like,
night.
shift the energy, get in the zone. So, you could feel as we're going through all of this. And then especially once it starts, the energy's shifting. Things are changing, right? And I think it started with maybe we heard like a knock or a tap or something, and we all kind of look and we're like, did you hear that? Yeah. Oh yeah, I heard that. So it kind of starts, but then it ends up escalating to a point as we continue using the radio, which we'll hit on that, but it keeps escalating to where we're hearing louder knocks. And then I think we heard the beep at one point.
Which that is weird. I know we've talked about this a few times. Randomly. We never really dove into it, I think because we don't understand what is happening there.
Yeah, we don't know what the
we're
fuck
not the
is
only ones
happening.
that have heard it. People come over here and
Pretty
they
much
ask about it.
everyone has heard it.
There is this electronic beep
Yeah.
that will happen in the house.
Yeah.
And
it sounds like it's like, I don't know, like maybe the microwave beeping
No.
or it's one single beep.
Right.
I'm just trying to explain, like it's like an electronic.
but it'll happen in different parts of the house is the
Yes,
thing that
it will
gets
move
me.
around.
And that's a whole other episode because I've got theories on that. It also could just be like the CIA listening to us.
Well, fucking probably, but
Probably. But so anyways, people are seeing things and like
Yes.
over by the stairs as per usual.
Yeah,
People
seeing
are
all the little, like, sparkles.
Yes, and I think what people refer to as almost shadow type
Mm-hmm,
beings. People see that. So that is relevant to what we're going to be talking about. But then we decided to use the radio, and it's a small handheld radio. It's a Ratty. It's a really amazing little.
it looks like a little SB7.
It's a really amazing little radio. If you're into the radio thing, I mean, it's great. It's got your shortwave band. It's even got single sideband. It's got the air band, all of it. But so we turn it on, and I have it to where I've got the tune button going to where it's scrolling through until something that's coming through is going to stop it. So there's nothing going on. I can't remember what the question was or what was said. You had said something or asked a question or something of this effect, and then boom, the radio just starts. And it was something that was interesting. First off, the noise that immediately started sounded like, again, being relevant to the moon, kind of like if you listen to recordings of what they call like the space music that the astronauts have heard.
And like, well, I think that came a little bit. That was kind of in the background. But the thing that got
like
me was the garbled, like voices that very much did not sound like it was anything that was English.
So the garbled voices, that's a tough one for me. I guess what I'm saying is for me, that's the least of the sort of the three things that were going on with the radio. Only because.
Well, yeah, we'll get to the shit.
Oh yeah, but because to me, I understand radio, and I don't just like radios because of what we do with this, but I actually collect them, and we have a bunch of them, don't we? And
yeah, there's a fuck ton.
So I think that could have been actual people on the single sideband or whatever. It could have been a lot of things. I know. I'm just trying to be practical.
I mean, sure, but then you could discount literally everything aside from the stuff when it started mimicking.
Yeah.
But just to set the scene, though, because, if anybody out there is like, I don't know, I have nothing to compare this to. I'm not sitting around fucking listening to radio.
Are you going to try to do the
whatever.
voices? Do it.
No, I'm going to set the scene as to when you turn on one of these radios. It's, when you switch to a radio channel and it's just a blank station and you just hear the white noise. That's 99% of the time what we hear.
Well, I can grab it
when
actually
we're
and
doing
show that. I could just turn it on.
Yeah, do that. So that way they have a frame of reference, because especially, and I think the thing that made this so cool is I'm so thankful that, everybody that was here, obviously they've been in these sessions with us before. They've heard us use radios before. They've been here, done the experiments. So they know what it sounds like. So when we turn it on and this shit starts coming through, we're all like, what the fuck?
So I'm
we
power
all
it up.
knew this is fucking abnormal.
So this is what it usually will just sound like. So let's turn it on, let it do its thing. And you're just going to get the static, the radio static, the white noise, as so. Okay, this is what's typical. This is what we had when we first started the radio. But as I was basically had tune going like this. So now it's quiet. What it's doing, when it finds somewhere that anything could be coming through, it's going to stop and go right and stop right there. Let me turn that off. So when it did that, it was this weird kind of, I'm going to try to do it. Ooh, sounds horrible, but like.
Well, I can grab my phone and play a little bit.
Oh, really?
Of it.
You should do that. Yeah, you should absolutely do that. So when that started coming through, I immediately look up and Nicole looks at me and we're like, okay, this is interesting. And there was these voices that were very audible, but they were kind of, I mean, you'll pull it up right now.
Well, it's very garbled. So in the clip that I have, because for the vast majority of this, we were just being present.
Yeah.
Right. But at one point, the voices weren't coming through. This was more when it was giving us like the musical frequencies. Like it almost sounds like in the middle of it, you can hear like, I don't know. It sounds here. Hold
Is this
on.
it? Oh yeah, listen to that.
Let me scroll to kind of the middle because you'll start hearing the
Well,
whistling.
we'll get there. Yeah.
It sounds like a fucking theremin.
That's
You
wild.
hear these whistle tones.
That is wild.
Okay, we're gonna see if
So.
you can respond back.
So that is what that was happening, and there was in moments, like sort of a talking happening. Mm-hmm. It would sound like between
And it was
multiple people.
It was very garbled. It almost sounded like underwater. I don't know. But when it first started, when we first turned it on, it was very obviously like you can tell when you hit a station on the radio that you're hearing shit from somebody else, or like, because you can kind of make out the words. It does sound like distant, but it's kind of like CB radio style, like you hear the words, you hear what they're saying, but this was very like garbled, almost like underwater. And it was not English. I don't know. It's not a language I've ever fucking heard of.
Well, keep in mind that we are using a shortwave radio, which can absolutely pick up from other countries. That's the beauty of the shortwave.
Sure.
But you're right. It didn't even sound like another. It was weird.
Yes. And I feel like, sure, I'm not a fucking linguist. Like, are there languages out there that I have never heard before? Sure. But it did not sound like anything that I have ever heard. So it was just weird.
Then you heard, we played that little bit off your phone, and you could hear kind of the whistling happening. So at some point, I'd heard that happening in there, which I thought was interesting. And I thought, well, because of some of the things that have happened through us and the way I've been thinking about this idea of a whistling language, and maybe that's why this whistling paranormal phenomena happens, which, for crying out loud, it happened literally last night. Mm-hmm. Ryan heard it a bunch. Mm-hmm. And then today we get a message from an RGO listener that's like, hey, I'm listening back to an episode way back. And it And there's the whistle.
There's a goddamn whistle.
And we
it's
didn't know
two
it.
tones.
Yeah. So I thought to myself, I'm going to whistle to see if I can get this to communicate with us. And I did. I did like a 3, like, I'm a horrible whistler. But it immediately, after I guess maybe a few seconds, it did it back in the same sort of do 3s. So then all of us started doing that. And it was responding every time.
Well, it was like mimicking. It started mimicking.
It was either mimicking or it was responding in the way that we were doing it to. I don't know, but that is interesting because it happened so many times. And we're all like, oh man, like these who watch the video are all like excited because not only have we had this session start, we were getting this really great responses from the board, but now we've got this radio and we're whistling at it and we'll do it 2-3 times and it will do that back to us. And then we'll be listening and you're not hearing it until we do it again, then it does it. So that was very interesting. And during this time, people using the board kept getting ha, 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 ha on the Ouija board.
Well, it was before we started the radio when it was doing the ha,
laughing.
Ha. Yeah.
And so that was wildly interesting. We kept this going for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a while. And then as that's happening, people are looking and noticing outside there's things happening.
Yes.
And, a couple of us went out there and...
After we closed the circle.
Correct. Mayor's out there. He's seeing these shadow beings. There's people seeing, like, it looks like glowing eyes, they say. Mm-hmm. What I was out there and experienced and heard was this, I don't know the best way to describe it, but like...
Forced exhale.
Yes. kind of like that. And this is something we've heard in other places, but it was happening right in the corner of our yard.
Well, it has happened in the yard before too. Actually, when Sarah was over here with some of her people and we did some CE5 shit in the fucking yard. And you had headphones on, you were listening to something at the time, and a bunch of us heard the same exact thing. And it came from
That
like
area?
right next to you.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's an interesting thing. So that had happened. That was our family seance night. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think was happening there?
Bro, I think that was alien as shit.
Okay. Well, that's good because I think that a lot, I mean, in my opinion, again, I think so much of this is, and that is funny because it's relevant because we had spoken to Heidi Hollis. Or did we speak to her after the seance? I'm trying to mix up our dates. Like, we're always so busy. I don't know.
No, we had talked to her. I think it was 2 days before.
Okay. She had talked about how, in her opinion, these shadow beings,
Accompany the UFO experience.
and that they're predominantly what you would refer to as alien, right? Which I think there's something there. Now, when I talk about alien beings, I'm probably more thinking of interdimensional things. I'm not thinking of from another planet. But regardless, it was giving these, like the tone even that you hear, it sounds very UFO-ian. I don't know, you know? And then seeing the shadow things outside.
Like, dude, what if there's some bruv, like, on the other side of the world that's just, like, has a theremin and he's like, dude, I'm gonna fucking come on this station and just make it sound alien as shit and try to, like, freak people out.
Well, the thing is as much as I listen to radios, because, again, I don't just look or use these things for the paranormal stuff that we do. I like listening and trying to find interesting sideband stations. I'm listening to the air band all the time to hear the pilots. I'm constantly looking for CIA, you know.
Oh, you're never gonna find CIA shit on there, bro.
This is not true. I can show you different frequencies of even just like old CIA spy things that are still in existence that they're number stations is what they call them, and they repeat these numbers. So you'll find these weird things.
Like current.
Well, you'll find these very interesting things, and on the single sideband you get military stuff even. So it's interesting. So you can find these things. I promise you, there's a whole
It's
community.
not going to be anything juicy. I'm sure that stuff is under lock and key, super protected. They're not going to be dumb enough to put it on a fucking radio station that other people could tap into.
You would be surprised. I'm telling you. But
Maybe I'm giving the government too much credit. I don't know.
I think you are. But this thing that we heard was something that I've not really experienced. Really,
No, none of us have ever heard anything like this.
but
Ever.
it does remind me of the sound. You remember I played this for you. A buddy of ours, Mike from San Antonio, who gave us the mirror that we have in the collection. Remember recently he went on an investigation to a residential place, and this lady's mom had just died in the house, and it apparently became wildly active. And when the mom died, she'd said, I'm so worried because when I die, these things are going to come for you, whatever. And Mike got this recording. He lost time, his own time during this recording, and it sounded exactly like that. And I remember sending it to you, and you were like, no, this sounds like a UFO, like toy or like a show. And so does that kind of woo, you know. And that was really interesting to me, the lost time thing. I think it's something we should be checking. I don't know. Anyways, I think you're probably right. That was maybe something that was more extra. I don't know what you'd call it. That was, I don't know.
Something not human.
Yes, and not what you would call your typical ghost.
No,
You know, 'cause-
ghost, aka like a dead person.
Which I know we're trying to
You
get rid of
know,
that word in our
no.
vocabulary, but it's just for definitions, it wasn't the same. So that was interesting.
It was weird as fuck.
It was weird. And what's really funny about this is because we had spoken to Heidi, you had like set some rule. They're like, no CE5 tonight because I'm
I know.
existential.
And they're like-
and it just turned into that.
And they're like, hold my beer.
yeah, they're like, sorry, bruv, you can't tell us what to do. You know, you can't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
But so then when we went outside and Wayne was seeing these things, you know, we're looking up in the sky and like, okay,
Yeah.
where are you? So that was interesting. And
Well, something that I also want to note, speaking of that, and the reason I said that is because there's the whole, and Heidi Hollis used the word contagion, which I do think is a very good
that stuck with you, huh?
word for it. Well, I mean, that's literally what happens. We have people come hang out with us and then they're getting fucking whistled and followed by shit. You know, like that's why Rachel's followed by fucking plasmoids now, you know?
I can't wait to see if
we
Ryan
do
comes
this.
back with something because last night was his first time
I fucking
here.
hope so.
You
but
hope
we,
so?
We have that, and yeah, he would love it. But
True. Fair enough.
we have that, and God, I felt so bad because then Denise texts it the next morning or something, and she's like, my 7-year-old said she saw a UFO out of her window last night and that it scared her.
Yeah.
And I even asked Denise, because I had called her later in the day, and I was like, well, did you like mention anything around her?
Or is this something that's happened before?
No. And she was like, no, I don't think I said anything. I mean, she's a kid. Like, who knows where they might see or hear something. But like, I don't think she would have heard me talking about it. And I didn't say anything to her,
It just lines up too perfectly.
That's just wild. So yeah, the contagion effect, and I'm like, fuck. I don't want to be like walking around infecting people, and then you look at the fucking serious research. You
just said that you hope so. They do. They say that they won't go to a lot of places.
Pasolka, yes, because of the contagion stuff, and that it is known. And these are fucking academic people, like scientists, researchers that are like, no, I'm not doing this because I don't want this shit to fucking follow me, and they know that it will.
This brings us to kind of an interesting point. So, I think one thing I've realized that the paranormal community itself seems to be the only community that is saying something like, none of this is bad. There is no demons.
Well,
it's
I think that's
interesting.
a bit too all-encompassing. And actually,
what I mean
I've
is
heard
academia
that
is saying don't go do this. And when they say they won't go to hotspots, that means they're not going into these places and, quote, investigating because they think, and like, okay, this attachment thing, whereas the paranormal community is they're going to dive in.
Well, yes, I think that's different than saying none of this is bad. People in the paranormal community, I think, mostly know that. I think it's more the spiritual love and light
Let
girlies.
me ask the question then. If, in your mind, if they really thought it was bad, or contagion could be not positive, why are they going in there then?
Because it's fucking interesting. Why have we gone back to Hill House so many times?
I don't even put us in the same category because I think that, if I'm being honest, I think there's an ego thing in that community that most people probably go in thinking like, they say things like, well, I will banish you or I'll do this, and I don't know, or they're trying to just go in for this evidence. But if they really thought that it was something like the academic people are like, I'm not going in there, because I know what this is. I know
they're smart.
Diana Pasolka said she would not do CE5 because, and she had a good point, which was we don't know what we're interacting with. And the thing is, when we go into a haunted location and we're dealing with what we call paranormal phenomena, we admit this, we don't know what we're dealing with. So
Correct.
Here we are still engaging this stuff. Does that just make us incredibly stupid?
Yes, probably.
Okay.
We're all fucking dumbass bros.
Yeah. Well, and then that leads me into when we spoke to Heidi. I don't know where I stand on her complete sort of idea on this. This is something we talked about back and forth, but it's worth noting. She has been looking at the shadow being phenomena for quite some time. Mm-hmm. She does look at it through the lens of her sort of religious beliefs.
Right. Which of course, everybody's going to filter stuff through 100%. Their own lens.
Now, in her opinion, you can go back and listen to the conversation. She's amazing, by the way, right? She was really wonderful to have on. We loved it. She was really insightful. But I think her opinion during that conversation was these shadow beings are bad, pretty much across the board. Mm-hmm. And she mentioned something interesting. She goes, well, the trend in the paranormal world is to say not everything's a demon. And I think what she was getting at was, by saying that, not everything's a demon, what you're really doing is giving yourself more of an excuse to be like, well, I can go do this then. Versus if you were like, this is all very bad and it wants to do bad things to me, and if I engage it, it's doing bad things to me. If you think that, you're not going to go do this. You're not going to go have your hobby of ghost hunting.
Well, I don't think that's true, because I definitely think there's something non-human, and I don't know if demons are a thing. Probably a fucking demon in Hill House, and we keep going back.
Okay.
AKA why we're all just real fucking dumb bros.
Fair
but
enough.
I think it's also just a natural human thing to like have that curiosity of like, there's something I don't know, something I don't understand. I want to learn more. Like, I want to try to understand this. Mm-hmm. And no, not everybody has that. Not everybody is that way. And yeah, sometimes it's probably fucking stupid. Well, curiosity killed the cat.
I will say this. I mean, for as much as we have done this together, separately, everything else, I have only a very small number of times encountered or experienced or dealt with something that I would say is on that level of what people use the word demon to describe, right? Something very negative. It is very rare in my opinion, but
Not human and intrinsically
but then
evil,
Heidi
bad?
kind of made my brain spin around a
Nefarious?
little bit, all right? Because we were talking about the shadow beings and her saying that they're all negative.
Yes.
And I said to her, okay, well, yes, the few times I've had experiences with them, it did not feel positive. It felt negative, except for one. And I mentioned when we were at Waverly Hills and there was that shadow being, and I waved at it and it waved back. And it didn't feel negative, right? She made a good point. She's like, well, of course, it wants you to feel like you're safe. And immediately in my mind, I literally thought of like the weirdo driving an ice cream truck trying to like talk to little kids. You know what I mean? Like, and yes, they're not going to immediately go around. These predators are not going to go around and make you feel negative or on alert. You know, they're going to Ted Bundy you. They're going to feel
Right. Well,
yeah.
it's the common thing of, demons will often mask or present as a young kid,
Okay.
to seem like innocent and whatever. Of course, they're going to try to lure you in. It's their siren song, Come on in. The water's fine.
I'm not gonna lie to you. That is incredibly. I've always thought so. The idea of a siren song of this mermaid singing at me, and I'm like,
Luring men to their death.
yep. I
That's
think it's. You know what? I'm gonna come. It's hot.
That's literally
It's
my
hot.
goal in life, to be honest.
Oh God, it's so hot. That's like a very that's a I'm on thing to think. But I have to ask your opinion, and then I'm gonna dive into some questions regarding your shadow being experiences. So you were pretty much that conversation kind of affected you a little bit.
Yes.
Can you explain? Can you explain?
Well, so one of the things for me, I will preface this, my human design, right? Yours too, actually. I'm sacral generator, meaning I will
Good.
get,
I thought it was sacral. It's better
will
that it sounds sacral.
get strong gut reactions for things when
same.
I know it's like right or true or like what I'm supposed to be doing, right? And I've always kind of been that way, and especially, with mediumship stuff or whatever. Like, it's one of those, you've probably heard me say before, like, oh, when I know, it's kind of one of those moments. And usually I get these like strong gut feelings. And so a lot of what she said, yes, again, prefacing with, of course, she, everybody is going to have their own individual religious beliefs, whatever, sure. However, I think a lot of what she said, when you remove that and look at it through the lens of whatever you want to call it, okay, God, source, the universe, collective consciousness, Akashic records, whatever, or like demon, right? Demon, or just something
language. It's
that's
language and
bad,
symbols, yeah.
non-human, whatever, right? So through these lens, a lot of the times when she was talking, I just kept getting these very overwhelming, and it has been a very long time, I will say, since I have gotten one of these gut reactions like so strongly, where it was just like, she's talking, I'm getting these strong gut reactions of like, fuck, like I like just knowing in my soul that like what she's saying just
Was
is
right.
true. And there were a couple points where like, yeah, I was like, dude, I feel like I'm gonna like cry right now, because for someone like me, I've been having this shit happen to me since I was a fucking kid.
We're gonna get there. So real quick, so did it affect you in the way that you're at the point where you're like, oh wow, I think that maybe, and let's be clear, we're talking about shadow being phenomena specifically here. Do you think that you kind of align with her thinking that they ain't good?
So that's a loaded question. Because we know I'm a both and girly, right? And I've always definitely been more.
But she's not, right?
More
She's very like, they're bad.
Yes, she's very black and white. Any shadow thing is bad, evil, nefarious. And I've always very much been kind of like a eye roll, people who say like all shadow beings are evil and they just want to kill you and blah, 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 However, I do still think that some of them, what we might be seeing is like time slip stuff or like interdimensional slip, like stuff like that, you know?
Are these ones that you say that you've experienced that maybe don't feel negative? Because I will say this, the only time, and I've experienced them now in a sort of handful of times in a profound way, and they do always seem negative to me. They never seem like it's anything that would be good.
Correct.
And maybe even at Waverly, who knows? Maybe I wasn't even getting vibes at all. It was just interacting, and maybe if I'd gotten closer, I don't know.
Well, I think at Waverly, and to be honest, because this is, you know, she's talking about this and she's saying her experience and whatever, and this is someone who, you know, objectively, yes, she's going to have way more fucking knowledge than I would on this shit.
She's been looking at this since 97.
Studying it, exactly, and she is getting thousands of emails and messages.
Oh,
and
really?
That says a lot when you are able to get stories like that from people and you're seeing the patterns and all of this, right?
That's actual
It's
research. Like it's going out. I mean, we talked about this. Going out to these locations and ghost hunting isn't really research. Like what is talking to experiencers and collecting their stories and seeing similarities, right? So she's done that.
It's collecting all the data.
Because you said her podcast is all stories. I've not listened to it.
It's kind of a mix. But anyway, so yeah, you know, she's talking about these things. And for me, it kind of almost felt like the time my therapist was like, well, have you ever considered you might have abilities, you know? And I'm like, oh, fuck. And it's like that meme with the lady and she's standing there looking so confused and you see all the math and everything flying behind her head. And she's like,
Yeah.
you know? And so my brain is flipping through my brain Rolodex of like, okay, and this time, you know, and pulling them all out and like reviewing. And the one that, you know, we've talked about most often is that Waverly one, right? With the wave and, you know, it didn't do anything harmful, any of these things, right? And it's seemingly nice. However, what came up for me is, and I don't know if I included this in the Waverly episodes or not, I would have to go back and listen, but when it's happening, when we see it, you hear my initial reactions, okay? And we know Nicole MO, what I get shit for is I don't really have reactions. I think we've caught maybe 2 of them. Sure. And when this happens, my reactions, I'm like, oh God. Like, I'm like, I don't even want to look at it. I can't look at this. Like, I can't, you know, it just, and I'm not saying it felt like bad or anything like that, but it certainly didn't feel good.
Okay.
It didn't make me feel at ease. It felt like this is something like I'm not supposed to be looking at this. Like I'm not supposed to be seeing this. Like I don't know what's happening right now. You know, and of course in any sort of moment like this where you're having an experience that is defying everything we logically know, right? Sure, there's going to be that kind of intrinsic like weirdness, I guess. But I don't know. And that was something that Heidi was hitting on as well. You know, what are your initial gut reactions when these things happen, right?
Correct.
And it's so often, and we've all experienced this, where you get that kind of initial like inkling or whatever, and we ignore it. We're like, oh no, this is going to be fine, right? Yeah, and guess what? Fucking 9.5 times out of 10, your gut reaction was right. And then you're like, oh, I should have fucking known, you know?
I typically go with my gut. And I agree with her on this. The times that I have had experiences with these shadow beings, no, they've never felt good. The time that we were in bed and the one that we keep calling it tentacles or tar that was coming from the door frame. No, that did not feel good at all. How could that? That looks and feels very...
Well, it was scary as fuck.
Scary. The time that we saw the very tall one in the room did not feel good, right? The times at Hill House in Mineral Wells, where the 2 times that I saw one on, I don't know, 4 legs or whatever, on all 4s, crawling at me, felt awful.
Yeah. And
awful.
see, that I would like to note, for me personally, I put that in a different category, I think, because I feel like that specific entity that you're referring to is created from us, like an amalgamation of fear, all of these things. So,
even though it was there before it was a place where people go and investigate ghosts.
I mean, maybe it started out as something else, but when you see something like that,
you're
going to be fucking afraid.
All I know is there's no way to be friendly with that. It was horrible. I remember when I did my lone wolf there and it happened, I had to call you on the phone and I was bawling, wasn't I?
You were having a little mentee bee.
Bawling. I remember what I told you. You're like, are you okay? How do you feel? I said, it felt like it was trying to get inside of me. And that was a weird, horrible feeling. So I didn't like that. Luckily, I did have that, and we're going to talk about this too. But I had that crucifix that Father Lampert had blessed specifically for me to go into that house. Okay, so it made you feel existential talking to Heidi, and we're going to now then talk about the other side of the coin, of the other sort of opinions on these things. But first, and I want to ask you about this, okay? We're unfiltered on this podcast, and we're letting people know who we are.
Do I need wine?
Yeah, actually, you should get some couple glasses because I'm going to run out of that beer, and we need some wine. I'm going to preface this while you grab some glasses, if that's okay. But you would come to me, okay, and this was interesting. After this conversation with Heidi, after the seance, after some of these experiences that we have had, I can't remember how you phrased it, but it was something about, geez, are we just like, religious girlies now or whatever? And you said something to me that I think was very interesting and I want to touch on because it was one of those rare moments where I saw you without this sort of tough guy persona that you definitely kind of keep on.
Oh my God.
Yep, which is this.
I
You
think
said,
that's a construct.
well, that's you. That's the tough guy persona right there. What I'm saying is,
How is that a tough guy persona of me saying that's a construct? You saying I have a tough guy
right,
persona?
because it's so different than what you
I
said.
have resting bitch tone.
Yeah, well,
That's different.
You never talked this way where you said, I now remember when I was a kid,
Yes.
I used to pray all the time, and I was religious. And when I stopped praying, the shadow people came. Can you talk about that? I know it's. I mean, look,
yes,
that's
I'll talk
okay.
about it, and it's not that black and white. So yes, that was.
That is what you said, though.
As
Yes.
not entirely.
Well, what did you say? So I can
simplified it significantly. So yes, we're both Italian. We both grew up Catholic. I went through First Communion and confirmation and all that jazz, right? And yes, so going back to the, she's talking and my brain is going through my brain Rolodex and all of these things are coming up and I'm remembering all of this shit, I'm like, oh shit, oh shit. One of the things that I recalled is, yes, so growing up religious, right? You're kind of taught to like, do your nightly prayers, right? And so that's how I would fall asleep often, as I would be laying in bed and just doing my nightly prayers, whatever, and what got my wheels turning is I was laying there thinking, like I know I used to do it every night, and I wonder because when I was a kid, right, I started eventually seeing these shadow things, and I think it maybe happened, maybe once here again, maybe I don't know, a year or so, a couple of years. It was very like spaced out, but then it started getting where it was pretty much every night. Okay, so it's
what do you mean? What do you what was happening every night?
My bed being surrounded by these shadow figures. Sometimes
looked human shapes.
Yes, it literally looked like a person standing
there. It
there.
looked like what Heidi said was like just the shoulders and head thing, whatever she called that?
No, it looked like the outline of a person.
Okay.
A full, like an actual human person.
Tall, normal size, short?
Just normal. Like,
Okay.
I mean, they would be varying heights,
Gotcha.
but
human
like,
sized.
Like
not
people.
overly tall, not overly short.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And so, I don't know if I'm trying to, obviously this isn't the exact timeline, but it would be, let's say, I don't know, maybe first grade, I saw it one time, then second grade, maybe nothing. Then third grade, maybe I saw it one or two times.
And this is when you were still praying, or you just stopped praying? When did you stop praying?
Well, I don't remember exactly when.
Okay.
I'm not going to remember that far back. But then there came a point where it, jumps from that to being pretty much every night, and sometimes it would be one or two standing there or maybe three, but more often than not, it was the entire bed being surrounded. So anyway, I'm thinking, I was like, fuck, like, because she's talking about how, these things want to isolate you. And specifically, they're going after people who are gifted and they want to make you depressed and weak and all of these things, right? And so,
anxiety,
they want
to
anxiety. Yes,
agitation.
And they want to pull you away from your faith and all of these things, right? And I do also want to know, I've also was a pain in the ass even back then. I was the one that was still always questioning things. I've never been just like blind faith type of girly. But anyway.
Well, I think that's a better way to have faith, if I'm being honest. So
Sure.
Sure.
So anyway, so my brain starts kind of putting these things together and remembering these things. And I'm like, fuck, like, actually, I think it might be around the time when I started seeing these things regularly. Maybe that's about the time that I stopped praying. And there was also a time, we would have to ask my mom about this. But I think I just got to a point where I just refused to go to church. I was just like, no, I don't want to do that.
Like that
anymore.
scene in The Omen where they try to take Damien to church.
He's just like,
and
no.
He freaks out, starts screaming and kicking, and they have to stop, and they can't get him into church.
Yeah. And I would imagine,
like that?
I mean, knowing me, I don't think I would have done something like that
I know,
because
yeah.
I wasn't, dramatic.
Really?
But, well, no, I'm just very, I'm going to say no. And then, I'm just like, it doesn't matter what you try to do, say what I'm going to do what I want to do.
Yeah. You keep pushing, the demon comes out. The shadow comes out. Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah. And so it was just something that, that immediately came up for me. And I was just like, oh shit, like.
Why did that though, do you think come up for you? And I think because the reason I ask, that is an interesting realization for a person to have. And when you have that realization, I don't know that you can go back from it. Okay, I think it's a lot more profound and philosophically deep than you might even be giving credit for. And when you said that, the only thing that rushed into my mind was something that we both witnessed, and we saw this recently. We've talked about it, but it's very important to this conversation. We had recently set up in our entryway to the home what I can only describe as a Marian altar. Mm-hmm. Something did not like that.
No.
Okay, something did not like that, and it's been popping off.
Well, it was kind of like a couple days where things were
pretty wild,
pretty bad in the house to the point where there was a fucking metal cross that we had put on the wall. It fell off and broke.
Now, look, before the
metal cross,
before the eye rolls come and say, "Well, things fall off the wall." No, first off, never happened before or since.
Correct.
Right, and this was right when we put it up.
Correct. Yes, and it was almost like there were a couple days of kind of like a final thrash,
When this is around the time we started wearing the miraculous medallions as well.
It was the exact same time, yes. We got it all around the same time.
These are important too in this conversation, which you're wearing yours right now. I'm wearing mine right now.
Right.
We've not taken them off, have we? Every day we've worn them since we started. It was around that time and something was not happy. That's the best way I can describe it. Is that too dramatic?
No, I mean, that is what occurred. Yeah. And I mean, sure, we've had little things happen in the house since then. And obviously we just talked about the seance, but it hasn't been anything at all like the level it was previously. And none of it, I will say, and you're going to know what I'm talking about. It also hasn't had that shift where it just feels fucking weird.
Well, I'll tell you, because it's almost like it's not able to, because there's these things around our neck, those things on the altar, have they protected it so it doesn't get to that point? And all it can do is throw little hissy fits, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
The story of these medallions in general, if you're listening, like there's plenty of literature on these medallions and the story behind it.
Right, it's just weird.
Well, and the countless stories of people that have had, miraculous things happen after sort of wearing them.
Yes, and I do also want to note for anybody that's listening to this and you're like, you two have gone off the fucking deep end.
Have we?
So first, you can go back and listen. We did the episode talking about the Marian apparitions.
Let me touch on this because I do want to point that out. Anyone that were to say that to me, I would get I would debate that, because we are not going off the deep end. We are literally talking about facts and things we are witnessing, things we are seeing.
Well, our lived experiences, yes.
And they're real because other people are seeing them as well. We started giving out those medallions, didn't we?
Yeah. We went to the religious shop earlier and got some more to
give out.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting for people that we've given them to.
Yes. It's just, and we did get it more so as like, this is an experiment, and because at the bare minimum,
is that really
all
why
of
though?
these
Or does
things,
something else called us to do that? I've thought about this, and I know that sounds weird, but has something else called us to do that, regardless of what we say our reasoning is?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. But at the bare minimum, and ever since you've known me, since before you've known me, all my workings and stuff, I have Daddy Michael stuff, Archangel Michael, who, I mean, since basically I started my practice, I've always worked with him. And, again, like I'm not I wouldn't say I'm a religious person. Like, I don't go to church. I'm not, whatever. I don't really like organized religion. I personally think that, like...
But see, that's my thing. And that's philosophically, I think we need to understand that I'm the same way. And I think that modern organized religion and its dogma and its hatreds and its picking and choosing and its inability, right, to not take the message that you find in these old texts
Right.
for what they are and to frame them in a way that is beneficial. It's ego. It's ego, and you're killing that, and you're killing other people's sort of spiritual experiences by doing that, and I hate it, actually, to be honest with you.
Well, it's just, I have my own thoughts on
Correct.
that. That's a different tangent.
I will happily debate any day on this podcast someone who is a modern sort of who thinks that they're this modern person that goes through modern Christian ideals, because I bet you're wrong, and I bet I can prove it, and I would love to do that. But no matter what, there's no way around this. When we started adding these things, this component, clearly something thinks it's a problem.
Yes, which I do think is interesting. And we've talked about this before when we were going down the kind of, when I was going down the demon rabbit hole and
you did that for a while,
exorcisms
didn't you?
and all that. Yeah, reading demonic foes.
Well, again, you asked me during that time, should we be going to church?
Yeah, I did. But the thing that I find interesting, and you asked me this question once, you were like, what would have to happen for you to become religious? Like, you're going to church every Sunday, like you are praying, you believe in this, like this is what you're doing, And I kind of thought about it, and my answer was, I guess for that, it would have to be, say, somebody that I know and love that's very close to me, like you or whatever, or even myself, gets literally possessed.
Okay.
Like, no question about it. This person's fucking possessed. Like, they're speaking in tongues, like the whole ordeal. Okay.
Yeah.
And we try, let's say, using some sort of witchy practice and some sort of shamanic practice and maybe other various religions to try to do some sort of exorcism, right? And none of it works.
But this one, yeah.
Until we have the freaking, Catholic priest or whatever,
Isn't this close? Isn't it close when I left that Hill House Lone Wolf and the rosary you gave me crumbled in my hands? Like, have we not seen these signs? Have we ignored them?
Well, sure. But here's the thing, though. We didn't have various religious iconography on you. I had given you that cross, and you had the cross that was blessed. And, like, I didn't give you, like, a pentagram, or I didn't give you a fucking Marie Laveau coin, or
no, but we can say that those symbols which we have from the museum have caused issues lately. Very occult, very witch-based sigils, the whole thing, and they've caused issues. That thing that you put on the wall, like,
yeah, that's not.
Well, the intent was saying is, but it is occult practices. Like, regardless, like it's this sigil work that what it is it's taking it from. Those kinds of practices are very big on you are the power, right? And everything that's going through you is because of you, and you're like this God. Like, that is actually the overarching sort of thought process when it comes to those practices.
For, like, magical practices.
So it gets away from this idea of source.
I think that's a bit of an overall statement, though, like a too broad of a statement for.
I think it's ego-based,
like occult stuff, because I don't. Not everybody subscribes to that. I don't subscribe to that. Pretty much everybody that I know that is actively practicing these things does believe in some sort of source, universal intelligence, something like that, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Why do people in modern times never define it? Like, they're afraid to, and they use the word spiritual, which I heard someone say this, and I had to agree with it, which was the word I'm spiritual is actually kind of very stupid, because what it's doing is saying, I have no conviction, I have nothing, no beliefs, and I'm saying that I'm somehow spiritual. But what does that mean?
See, I also think that that's...
It's an intellectual...
I think it's extremely simplified, and I don't think that that's
but what
accurate.
Does it mean?
Sure, maybe for some people it's a lazy response. And I mean, maybe most people it's a lazy response, but here's the thing, that's going to be defined differently based on who you're talking to.
Okay, so then let's loop this right back. Say, when we would be closer in the camp of like, yeah, I'm more spiritual than anything, nothing like we've seen happen when we put up our Marian altar has ever happened to us. it popped off. Like it was like, no, don't do this. Do not. It's basically like it was telling us, don't mess with this.
I mean, sure, but what do we have to compare that to?
That's the point.
Nothing.
Spirituality, when they say, I'm just spiritual, they have nothing to compare it to because
Well,
there are no archetypes that they're looking at.
No,
Because you
I'm
said this.
talking about specific instances like putting up the Marian altar. We hadn't done anything like that for any other
But
practice.
you wouldn't if you were just spiritual because you're not subscribing to any of these practices.
It depends on what kind of spiritual you fall under.
If you're, in my opinion, if you're putting out an altar for whether it's Daddy Michael or whether it's Marian or whatever, or if you're like the people we've had on the podcast that are putting out, like Alexis, putting out these different things, I guarantee he would agree with me. Like, there's a big difference between saying like, yes, I'm putting out these archetypes, these egregores that you even said are very powerful at this point, whether you believe or not, right? Because so many people do. If you're just like, oh, I'm just spiritual, and it doesn't seem as powerful. And I think, like, I've had this conversation with some of the people we work with.
I just disagree with what you're saying. I think it's an extremely simplified way of saying it. Like, I'm not gonna, if somebody asks, like, if I'm religious or whatever, I'm not gonna sit there and be like, well, do you have a few hours to sit down and let me go in depth about this to fully explain everything
then what
to you?
would be the point of, so like some of our friends, what they do when they're looking at Palamayambe or any of these different belief systems, and they're going off those saints, those archetypes, those deities, those entities, those gods. Why are they doing that? Why would you have to? If it doesn't matter, this is my point.
I'm not saying it doesn't matter. What you're
because
talking about spiritual.
Yes, because people that say, I'm just spiritual, I don't believe in any of this stuff, they don't have that figure. There is no figure that a spiritual person prays to.
Okay, well now you're giving more words to this because now you just said spiritual and I don't believe in any of this stuff.
Well, yeah.
So are you referring to spiritual and I don't believe in any of this stuff specifically?
No, the stuff meaning
Mary,
like the correct, or not even just that Christian religion, but because if you say that about that religion, you're saying it about all of them, right? Like if you're saying I don't believe in religions, it's like, okay, well you don't believe in the deities of these practices, and they don't typically worship a deity.
But see, I think that even that is too simplified because saying I don't believe in religion, okay, well you're even going to have to define that more specifically.
It's a belief system based off of structures that work for a culture and that they believe in collectively.
Okay, but sure, you just had to define that though. That's my point.
Yeah.
Like if you say things like this and you're using these big, broad words, every individual is going to have a different definition of that. And so how you might interpret somebody saying that is likely going to be entirely different than what they're actually meaning.
So one of the conversations we had on here, you and I, with, I can't think of his name, Fiesta Gnome?
Mm-hmm. Val, great guy, actually. I'd love to rehab Val on. Yeah, and so he's somebody...
Well, he used the saints. Is what I'm telling you.
Yes.
But he was folk Catholic, and
yes.
he knew that. And there was no I'm spiritual. It's I'm folk Catholic.
Well, he has said spiritual though.
No, we talked about it on the podcast. He even said, and this goes with this person I was listening to, who said, when you just say I'm just spiritual, I don't have this overarching call it religion, call it faith that they believe in. It is kind of disingenuous in a lot of ways. So Val was like, yeah, well, no, I'm folk Catholic. It's different than the modern one. So it's different there, but it is still looking at these saints as real spiritual beings that have real ties. Whereas most people that are just spiritual are not, I don't see how they can look at any of these religious practices. And if they meld them all together in a way and they say, oh, I'm just spiritual, they're taking these, they're kind of, it's a very Western thing to do. And we know this, that's just proven. It's a very Western thing to do, to take away all the religion and say, oh, and it feels to me like people that say I'm just spiritual, they do make it's an ego thing. Not 9 times out of 10. It's, oh, I can do this, or I can work with this. I'm spiritual. I'm a spiritual light being, whatever. And a lot of your love and light girls, like you mentioned, like that. But why is that this big Western thing, we think it's right, where the rest of the world for thousands of years has been like, no, we actually have faith and belief in this. Mm-hmm. Think about that.
I'm still sticking by, I think what you're saying is entirely oversimplified and not applicable to everyone who might say that. Sure, some people will fall under that category, so for sure. I think there are definitely some people that say spiritual as kind of a cop-out because perhaps they haven't necessarily really identified what they actually believe yet. I also think that some people can use it like I'm that's a term I would use because I'm not going to be like, dude, we have 2 fucking podcasts talking about this shit. Like how am I going to sit down and concisely explain my beliefs on that to somebody. So yeah, it's just easier to say that sometimes. That you want to call it lazy, sure, fine, it's probably lazy. I'm not gonna sit here and have a fucking 3-hour conversation. I also don't like small talk though. So that's just
absolutely,
me.
absolutely.
But I think
that's not small talk at all. Small talk is how you doing today.
Sure,
How
but
do you
small
feel?
talk, like if you're getting to know somebody and
philosophical
you're like,
conversation.
sure, exactly. But I'm like, if somebody's asking me something like that in passing, whatever, I'm not gonna fucking go into it.
Yeah.
So just saying like,
We
oh
should
yeah,
have
spiritual.
some of these people on, Val again, Alexis again, maybe Father Lampert again, and ask them like, hey, what is that difference? And see what their opinions are as well. Because there seems to be value in having these things that you look at. Because you even said it the other day. You said, regardless of if we believe in this stuff, these egregores are so powerful at this point.
Yes, referring to things like Mary, Daddy Michael, all of these things, Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, at the bare minimum, they are some of the most powerful egregores in the world.
Yeah, because of the amount of belief in them.
Correct.
And we have seen, even though we are not religious people, when I say I'm not religious, I mean, I do not like the modern version of, let's say, Christianity. I don't like it. I don't like the modern version of most religions. I think it's egotistical. I think it's dogmatic. I think it's problematic. And I think it does more to get rid of a spiritual sort of side of a person than almost anything else. And I think that is probably one of the worst things that a person can do is take part in that. But we have still seen that something clearly doesn't like when those things are in place.
Sure.
So there must be something there, right? Or am I just crazy?
Well, I'm a both and girly, and I think you are crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, yes, obviously something also didn't like it. So, I think it's just going back to the conversation we've had many times. Belief and intention are everything, right? And whether or not we're saying, like, I believe in the Virgin Mary as, I'm super religious and I'm going to church and I'm worshiping as a deity, or I don't know, I'm probably using the wrong religious terminology because I'm not in that crowd,
yeah.
But versus like, I'm putting this up because I have the belief that at the bare minimum, this is one of the most powerful egregores in the world. That's still belief in the thing.
Would you say, though, as someone who does, let's say, protections like you just brought up, are you taking those from some religious practice, or are you just making them up on your own?
What do you mean?
Meaning when you're different things that you like to do. Well, you sage and stuff. What practice is that from? That's indigenous cultures, obviously.
I don't typically
So
sage.
what you do specifically, where does that come from? Did you just make it up and you didn't take it from these actual religious sort of groups?
What depends on what you're
So I'm asking what you do.
Well, yes. It depends on what specific practice you're talking about.
What
so
you
like
do.
I
Where did
might
you take those
okay,
from?
well you gotta let me say the words, bruv.
Say it.
I'm gonna leave you a bad review. So if I'm trying to use, let's say I like incense, right? So maybe I use a dragon's blood incense. I don't know what practice that's from. Of
incense is
using
very
that
most religions very
specifically.
Catholic.
Well, yes, it's a bit more ubiquitous than that. Like stuff like, I don't know, making my fucking salt mixture with herbs and whatever and Florida water and putting that in the bath. Again, that's not necessarily a specific practice.
So
However,
I have to ask you then, are you saying that you, and this is maybe not meant to be challenging, but it is a philosophical conversation. Are you saying that you don't know where the things you use come from?
I mean, I think that's a bit of a loaded question because these are more ubiquitous. Like probably most organized religions around the world use some sort of incense.
Well, definitely.
Okay, so there you go. So it's like you can't say, it's just like shadow people, right? I know Heidi trademarked that. However, and she might have been the first
wild, by the way,
to use the specific terminology shadow people and put it out there in a manner of like written formats and whatever.
But they've been
where
talked
she
about
was
since indigenous cultures.
Exactly. This is shit that has been talked about since, I don't know, probably since people could fucking talk. Like it's ubiquitous.
Well, since we know, because we just brought that up, that these cultures that saw shadow beings and everything else, that they always have said the same thing. I don't know of one culture that's like, yeah, shadow beings are good or bad sometimes, depending on the thing. There really isn't, if you look back at it. Indigenous cultures, Christians, I think probably any religion, never has once said that those things are either they can be good or bad. They've always been like, no, that's bad news.
Yes. Just like vast majority of them also think that mediumship is wrong and you shouldn't be doing this if you're talking to demons.
let's dissect that.
Maybe that's why I'm fucking haunted and have shadow people around my bed.
No, I think what's wrong about that is this. What they're saying is very simple. There's two ways to do that. And we've talked about this, the mediumship. There's one way that's ego-based, which says, I am able to do this, versus I don't know what I'm connected to, but whatever I'm connected to is responsible for this. Mm-hmm. That's how you talk. That's your language. Yes. I've never once heard you be like, and like, what's her name that we watch and laugh about? The psychic on TV.
Well, there's a lot of
Caputo? Is it a...
Oh, Teresa?
Yeah.
The Long Island Medium.
The Long Island Medium over here, right? And I guarantee someone like her's like, I've got abilities and I was born with abilities, versus saying like, yeah, I was born somehow more sensitive to this, but whatever it is not me. It has nothing to do with me. And that's the language I've heard you speak with. The mediums I don't like, the mediums I challenge, the mediums that I can easily prove wrong are the ones that are ego-based. Let's be honest here. And I do think that's what these old texts are saying when it refers to mediums and things like that. It's taking away this source as the power and making it somehow you, versus you being connected and a part of that.
Which actually is a very religious thing to say. Yes. Yeah. That we do not have the power. Yeah.
I don't believe we do, because even if you're not religious, and let's say you just believe in intelligent design, right? Like that there's some sort of a source, and I guess most people wouldn't that aren't religious, but if you do, you have to understand the very simple fact that like, well, no, we're not. We can't do that, like we can't create a massive what this is. So no, I think inherently if you understand that you don't understand it, and because of that, there's no way for you to be like, I can master it. It's getting rid of that ego.
Yes, and I mean, I think this is also, like going back to the beginning.
That's why everyone should take psychedelics, baby.
I was kind of pointing out, I think that's actually more the like kind of love and light girlies, the people that are like, oh, there's nothing evil or negative or whatever.
Oh, the witch talk people?
There's people in all of the places that do this, but yes, it very much pisses me off.
Why?
When people say that, first of all, but to your point of talking about the ego in it, I think something that is a unique, perhaps, well, not unique, I'm sure other people have gone this path, but we've talked about this a couple times. When I started doing all of my mediumship training and development and whatever, I was doing it simultaneously to shamanic training, and that is like, dude, I don't remember how many fucking days, but you had to do an ego death meditation every day for like a long ass time, because that shamanic practices, that is coming from indigenous cultures. And again, ubiquitous, because pretty much every culture around the world has, their shaman, medicine men, whatever their terminology is for it. And I have gone down the rabbit hole looking at a lot of them. And it's interesting to me that a lot of their practices, a lot of the things that they do is very similar, despite being, on the opposite side of the world as each other, whatever. But anyway, the thing, again, ubiquitous, that's keyword. This episode is brought to you by the word ubiquitous.
The letter U.
The letter U. But anyway, they're very adamant that, it is not us, right? And even like shamanic healing sessions, whatever, like, dude, I'm not doing shit. Like, you are there to literally be the medium. So all of your training, all of your practices,
I love that you're able to say that. That's what medium means. Yeah.
Out of the way.
To kill the ego.
That's why we are supposed to fucking meditate so much, because you have to be able to get your own shit out of your head. So that way, when you're receiving, you're not adding your biases and your other bullshit onto it. And you can just deliver what you're receiving and try to remove as much of our own filter as we can. So yes, medium in the literal sense, and that's what a lot of that training and those practices are. And it's not, oh, I'm special because I can do this and whatever. Like, yeah, sure, everybody loves a fucking ego boost, right? And wants to feel special. But when
kind of, but it is
when you get down to brass tacks, I'm not doing anything.
When you get down to brass tacks, I love it, because when I started going down that route and understanding and going away from that egotistical way of thinking, it was a bit more liberating for me than any ego boost I've ever received. And I think it is interesting that you're talking about. I would have loved to see you go through that, to be honest. Like, I'm so interested in your shamanic training part, like why that even came about. Like, what the hell was that? Like, it's one thing to be like, oh, I'm learning how to tap into the network and sort of call it, be a medium, but that's from 0 to 60 in like 2 seconds. Like, oh, I'm also going to go be a shamanic.
It's also very niche.
Shamanic, which I will give you this as well. Most Western people, I guess I'd say, that like do study that stuff, I hear a lot of the ego behind it. Well, I'm a shamanic trainer. Like blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I'd never. You don't ever talk about it.
That's why I don't really like talking about it, because it also, at the end of the day, I'm also, fucking white girl sitting here, right? I'm not indigenous, and I will say I was really hoping when I did my DNA thing, I was like, come on, Native American.
Well, all white people
I
are,
did not
yeah.
have. I do have Egyptian in me though.
Okay.
So that's fun and exotic. But
what fun.
I was very excited.
It's fun and exotic. It's amazing.
But anyway, yeah. So that's I'm not ever going to talk about that, because people talk about cultural appropriation, whatever, and I do. Yes, that's obviously a thing, but that's also why for me I enjoyed learning, and the people who I learned from, aside from one, she's Celtic, whatever. It was people who have learned from many different traditions, and that's a lot of, I'm a down the rabbit hole kind of girly. Like if I'm diving into something, I'm fucking diving into something. And so that's why it came alongside the mediumship training, because I'm like, well, if I'm doing this, I want to fucking do this, and I want to learn everything I can, and I want to learn from these cultures who've been doing this since the beginning of fucking time, basically, and probably have a lot more knowledge than I ever fucking will, and they've been doing it for generations. Like I want to learn from that.
And not only that, they've not only been doing that, but they do it in a different way than we see here in the West. Here in the West, a lot of spiritual or new age crowd, let's be honest, it is done through selling interesting things and getting an identity about something that has nothing to do with a family lineage, or like these people that are like these cultures where all they have is nature, earth, and their beliefs. They're doing it for a profound reason that is very different than your typical Western person.
And I think the identity, to call to that, we had this conversation with Alexis, because he does healing work and whatever, and he obviously talks about the
he's straight Paulo, I think, right? Paulo Mayombe is like his deal.
He has a couple different ones, but yes, I believe that's his primary. But he was talking about, in these cultures, you are never going to refer to yourself as like a curandero, or, insert whatever the specific culture's name would be, like shaman or shamanic healer or whatever. Like that's, you would never fucking refer to yourself as that. Like that is a title that other people give you, and they, you have to earn it, but it's also like, like I can walk around and be like, yeah, I'm a flutist, right? And I have that identity, I guess, like I worked my ass off for it, right? But that's
you thing,
different than like, oh, I'm a healer and you can come to me and let me do a shamanic healing session on you and blah, blah, blah. Like, sure, yes, I can. I've done sessions, but I'm never going to go like advertise that. You know what I'm saying?
What was the point of the learning that for you? Was it just the learning aspect, or was there something about it that helped you find that connection that we call mediumship?
I think for me, and especially in the beginning, it's the learning aspect. Like when I'm diving into something, I want to learn everything I fucking can learn about something, and it's all interrelated. Like when you talk about whether it's mediumship or witchcraft or shamanic practices or whatever, everybody's going to talk about like their own form of divination or their own form of spirit communication or their own form of energy work, of healing work, of, all of these things, again, ubiquitous, no matter what practice it is, they all kind of have these things. And for me, yes, of course, I had mediumship mentors and I'm reading all of those things and whatever, but the shamanic practices specifically, like I said, I like and appreciate that it's coming from this essentially a very long lineage of experience, I guess, knowledge, information.
Okay.
And I just find it, one of the things that I'm always very interested in is
which I do love, because you're not taking the route of the sort of, I'm sorry to be a dick, but kind of the silver raven wolf idea, like the mall witch idea. You're going to these real things, very serious beliefs and practices to understand and not make it about you.
Right.
And get some sort of title that you can then egotistically say about yourself.
Right. Okay. It's the knowledge and, learning from experience, and yeah, these bros that have been doing this for, all around the world, all of these different cultures back however many years and however many generations. Of course I want to learn from that.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to learn from that, and I'm just always...
Well, that was one of your greatest, you saw this firsthand, didn't you? These people and how powerful that life is. You went to see some monks and France.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's like their
That
life,
was-
right? Like
yeah.
they're dedicated to that.
That was one of the coolest experiences of my life. Yeah.
Why?
Well, for me, you know, you're witnessing these actual monks who are living on this isolated island in the south of France that, first of all, is just fucking beautiful.
And all they
but,
care about spirit. Like the rest of the world
yes,
means nothing,
but
right?
getting to witness, I mean, obviously my degrees are in music, you know, and getting to witness a service and they're singing fucking Gregorian chant
Yeah.
in a goddamn chapel in a fucking private island in the south of France. Like, I don't know. Like, if that doesn't just make it be like, okay, yeah,
Well, it's-
reincarnating on this fucking hellscape again, like that made it worth it. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
there's a realism that you don't see in your typical person that goes to, let's say, church.
Yes, it's
Because
not.
these people they're not concerned about what house they have, what clothes they have, what designer bag they have, what the other person's doing. They don't keep up with the Joneses. They literally, that's their life.
Yes, and well, again, it goes back to kind of what I was saying with the shamanic practices. That's something that goes back. I mean, I could look it up, but you know, the earliest form of music notation was literally from monks, the hand, right? And that's how they were notating music. That was from monks for Gregorian chant. It's like one of the earliest forms that we have, and that we, you know, so it's going back all these generations, and it's just the history of that. And there's just something.
And what's beautiful is
It just feels magical.
that magic is still
getting
here.
this like ancient
Yeah,
knowledge, I
and
guess.
that's the interesting thing is that magic is still here and it's still being practiced, but you have to get away
It's very
from
rare.
material world to find it, don't
Yes, and just like the shamanic practices, one of the people that I studied from, they make it a point. They still do this regularly, but and you've talked about this before, they were going out into the fucking jungle with these indigenous cultures and, you know, staying out there for weeks at a time.
Oh, I wanna do it, yeah.
Learning and practicing under these, you know, indigenous medicine men and healers,
and
and
let me-
partaking in the ceremonies.
Let me be
and,
very
you know,
direct into why I want to do that. I think there's so many ways you can, but the people I've known or have read about that do that, the one thing that it was more about was not only that experience or taking the psychedelics with these people to have these visions or whatever, but it was getting away from the materialist world for quite some time. And they say that after I think it's like 2 weeks or something, when you're out in the wilderness, the mountains, whatever, with these groups, with no phone, none of the technology, that your body, that it feels different, that it's more connected, that it's more, it feels more complete.
Well, I believe that. And I mean, you can even go look up the research. If you hear the woke girlies, whatever, talk about earthing, right? Going
Earthing?
and standing outside.
Oh, they used to call them barefooters, yeah.
Yes, in your bare feet in the ground. But if you look it up, it literally changes the pH levels in
Yeah.
your body. Like it has physical changes in the human body
So-
doing that. So it does. It literally changes
Well, that's interesting
the
to me
human body.
because of the fact that here in the West, and we're the only place that has this, people that do that give themselves a title, which means they're giving themselves an identity, which means they're feeding their ego. So it's funny. It almost makes people like me, who was once once an atheist. I think that's where it comes from, is seeing the bullshit of that and seeing how it's all about, let me show you how I'm a barefooter and blah, blah, blah. And then they're really like condescending to other people. And other beliefs.
Identity.
Correct. I think you get rid of identity. I think our trouble in the West is we're looking for identity.
Well, identity
Whether
is
it's a
ego.
fucking letter or it's a name, you get rid of that and realize that you don't matter, because when you die, your identity is fucking gone. What's there is the way you made people feel, the energy you put out into the environment, to the reality, the vibrations you put out, the words, the electricity. You know what I mean? Like that's really hard for me to grasp, because it does make me think of like what is really important.
Yes, and these are the things that make me existential, because then I'm over here like, none of this matters.
Well, then let's flip the script. Last night we had Ryan over here, right? And he has a completely different view of what we just talked about, which was, no, I don't think that inherently a lot of these things are bad. Mm-hmm. But he did go over some really bad experiences, and boy, I can't wait to talk about those. And boy, I've got a new place that I can't wait to dive into. We got to make that happen immediately, by the way.
Oh, yeah. And I don't think I fully answered that question, by the way, when you asked me that with the shadow beings. Both and girly. Yes, I do think that a lot of them probably just are negative.
Why?
But I do think I hit on the four-leg thing being maybe created But yeah, the time slip, like interdimensional, or maybe I did answer that and I just don't remember. I don't fucking know.
Why do you think? How do I put the question? Why do you think that they're inherently bad? And if so, why does that mean that the shadow dark beings are bad looking, or the other things that we're experiencing are somehow not bad? Is that our Western way of being like, oh, look, it's dark, it's bad, like we've always done? Like, think about that philosophically. Why are the shadow people bad, but the other phenomena is not?
Well, I mean, if you look at, you want to talk about culturally, right?
Yeah.
Typically, even if you look at, the bright lights, that's typically associated with the angelic, like divine beings, and, like shadowy, right? The super black, that's typically,
Inky,
inky. What is just associated with like evil and nefarious. Now, could it just simply be, sunlight and nighttime and going back to survival instincts, fight or flight, right? Like, is this just simply human evolution at play here? Fucking probably, to be honest. But
Well, maybe, because the darker something is, you can't see in that, like maybe there is
well,
that.
it's just scary. It's our lizard brains, fight or flight, right? That's literally our fucking, like, the job, like, stay safe, right?
Yeah. But regardless, I will say that in these instances, for those that are listening that have seen shadow beings, I don't know that I've ever talked to someone that can say, "Oh yeah, it was real positive. Like, he was wearing a party hat," and
It's just weird. And I think I think you asked this question about, why do I think that they're all just bad? I think it's going to, one of the points that Heidi made was, look at your intrinsic reactions and your gut reactions, those gut responses when you see them, right? And vast majority of the time, it did not feel fucking good. Like, it did not, I will say, I don't know that I've, maybe a couple times, because I've had a lot of fucking experiences with these things. Maybe a couple times it was like fucking scary, but majority of the time, it's not like I see it and I'm like, oh, I'm shaking in my boots, Granted,
is
that's
that
also
because
not really
you're
me,
used to it?
But
I mean,
well,
look, I hate spiders, but if you were to
probably.
make me deal with them every day, every hour,
yeah,
eventually
there's the
they won't. Right.
Yeah, you become desensitized. I mean, yeah, probably. But I mean, also, to be fair, like, my personality, I'm just generally not that way. You know what I'm saying?
You got big dick energy.
Sure.
Yeah.
I do have a coffee mug that says that.
Do you?
Big dick energy.
Yeah.
I love using
I
that
need to get a
mug.
coffee mug made that's like big shadow energy.
Big shadow energy.
Yeah.
Big shadow people energy.
No, it is interesting though, because these things, so then I have to ask you though, that's the big question is, what if this other phenomenon that we're engaging with, and I'm not making a statement, I'm asking a question, but what if this other phenomenon that we're engaging with presents itself as not as a shadow being, but what makes us understand and know that it absolutely is not the same? Because it goes back to that predator here in the world, the Ted Bundy. Mm-hmm. People didn't know because it presented itself in such a way that was safe.
And I don't think that there is an answer to that, because we've literally watched these things shapeshift. And I do believe that a lot of this phenomena, it's going to present in a manner that I don't know if, like, saying that we will best be able to receive it or whatever manner that they want to present in. Mm-hmm. Can a shadow being shapeshift into being a full fucking apparition? I don't fucking know. Maybe. Fucking maybe. Have I literally watched them shapeshift before my eyes? Like, yes. We both have.
Yes.
We've watched them moving. Now, granted, it was all to other, like, shadow things, but I don't know, who's to say, like, the little sparkles that we see around the house aren't the same. That I don't fucking know. Nobody who fucking knows.
Well, but it is interesting that you have this other camp. So when we talked to Ryan last night, I'm willing to bet, sure, he would say some are good, some are bad. And I'm probably in line with that. However, if we, as people that do this is, I think, the philosophical question I want to ask. If we understand that the majority of these things that we're dealing with are bad in a spiritual way that we cannot contain, we cannot understand, we can probably not actually combat, is the issue with admitting how bad it is the fact that we, at that point, need to understand that only an idiot then would say, well, I'm going to go after it because we still want to keep going after it. You understand what I'm trying to get at? Like, I hope I worded that right. Like,
I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. But like I said in the beginning, are we all just dumbass fucking bruvs going around doing this shit and we're real fucking dumb? Probably.
you think so?
Fucking probably.
Really?
The fucking science bruvs and the academic bruvs are like, no, I'm not going near this shit.
Well, not even that, but everyone away from the Western culture is like, no.
Yes.
And here we are like, I'm going to put on a black t-shirt and kick down doors.
Yes.
You know.
So are we stupid? Fucking probably. That's why we're not, fucking doctorates teaching at goddamn universities or in labs doing research.
We are bruvs with a paranormal podcast.
Yeah.
Who go into haunted locations and we wonder and ask ourselves, what could it be that's attached to us? Why is there a whistling? Why is this happening?
Yes.
And literally for thousands of years, cultures have been telling us what it is. And now I'm not saying this isn't definitely, I'm literally asking questions. It has been a weird shift for me because not in a way of identity or knowing or understanding, but in a way of asking myself questions of, are we interacting with some things that, oh boy, could be really bad.
Well, sure. All this shit does is open up more questions than answers.
Then here's the other question. If you don't believe in it, then what?
Well, I think that goes to a point you made earlier of, these religious texts are the kind of like, let it be or whatever you said, or maybe it was in the RGO episode. I don't fucking remember. But when you're not putting energy or acknowledgement to it, does it just dissipate and go away? Like, I think that there's something to be said for that. And we've literally seen it in action so many times by the people who don't have any experiences or whatever, because they're not putting any stock into it.
Well, then the other question for me is these invisible forces, I'll call them that, which is a weird thing to say, but are they still affecting the lives and the reality of non-believers? Of atheists, like when they say that there's this war of good and evil going on that we can't see, that's invisible, which at this point I do firmly believe there is.
I do think so too.
Is it affecting the lives of non-believers, of the atheists who thinks that that's all just stupid and that thousands of years of cultures and people and philosophy are wrong and they're right because they grew up in fucking the village in New York, right?
Yes, I think so. And I mean, I think if you are on the spectrum of, and when we say good and evil, I'm not necessarily saying, angels and demons or adding any sort of religious context or whatever,
symbols,
right? Exactly. But, if there are things that are inherently negative, yes, it's every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction, right? Like fucking laws of goddamn science or whatever. So there's going to be the other end, which is good, right? Or, if you believe in good, there's going to be the opposite end, which is bad, right? So if you believe this to be true, operating under that belief, yes, of course it's affecting the people who don't fucking believe in this. You're still living in this material fucking world.
So you're thinking that they're looking at things just in a different language and symbology and making it make sense to them, even though it's still the same thing that's affecting their lives?
Well, I think it would fall more under the category of ignorance.
Okay, so this begs the question, just as a personal opinion here. Do you think the idea of atheism in general, or not believing in any of this, or only believing in materialist viewpoints, thoughts? Do you think it's...
I mean, I don't...
No, be brutally honest.
I think it's a bit silly because I'm like, even atheism, even saying I don't believe in anything, that's still a belief.
That's a belief, yeah.
That's still a belief,
well, and,
I guess, again, identity. They've given it a title. They've given it something that they're willing to identify with.
They're always angry. They're literally more angry than...
Yeah, because guess what? They're walking...
everyone's stupid. I know what I'm...
Yes.
Here's what's funny.
I'm smarter than everyone.
Exactly. It's just so funny, though, because when you take the spiritual aspect out of it... I was talking to somebody the other day, I believe it was Eric, actually, who was like, I don't know, I think I'm still an atheist. I'm like, well, ask yourself a question. Like, have you ever heard of the Fibonacci sequence? The golden ratio?
Yes.
Yeah, this is all found in nature. Like, it's very clear when we look at science and we look at sort of what we know from quantum physics and mechanics. Like, there's very clearly a design. It's funny, atheists and materialist scientists, they say miracles are bullshit except one. They want you to believe in one miracle.
Yes, how all of this was
The
fucking
Big Bang.
created.
Just out of nowhere. There it came.
Right.
That's the miracle.
No, they can't happen. None of it's true. None of it exists. I
Except one.
I guess this one's fine.
Yeah. That's kind of...
But it's like even
kinda
that
bullshit.
stuff, okay, and then you can go down the rabbit hole of, okay, well, there's people who've cured themselves of fucking cancer. Explain that to me.
Hold on. No, we got here on Parapeculiar. We're not doctors, and we do not advocate, I don't know, any weird cures or whatever. But you're right.
Well, I mean, it's just they don't have explanations for that. And like I can say this I worked in the fucking medical industry
What is
for
the
years.
wildest thing you've seen in that regard, and why do you think it happened? You
People
told me
curing,
this. Like,
yes, people curing themselves of cancers, like literally people getting diagnoses of like stage 4,
what does that
terminal,
mean, though?
whatever.
Because a skeptic would say to you, okay, the cancer just went into remission. They didn't cure themselves. What are your thoughts? Now, I have heard studies of people that Morgan Knudsen came on the podcast early on when the podcast was around, and she told me about a study of people that had cancer who were tasked to draw their illness. The ones that drew it smaller apparently got better. The ones that drew it bigger. Now, that's an interesting study and I don't know enough about.
Well, I think that makes perfect sense to me because there have also been studies done like if you're having shit going on in your brain, write it down and burn it because you're making it tangible and it does something. So our fucking brains control our entire body. If you're sitting here saying like, oh my God, I'm going to die, blah, 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 right?
Well, it's like the hypochondriac who's always
guess
sick.
what's going to fucking happen, But, and I will say the thing across the board from all of these people that I interacted with and the remission, I don't know. I don't still know them. I didn't keep up with them. So is that a possibility? Sure, of course. I cannot definitively answer that. However, every single person that I talked to that I heard a story like that from, every single one of them, the common themes where they were like, well, I just told myself, actually like, no, and it's going to go away. And I'm going to be fine. And laughter. They said that they made it a point that literally everything they were watching, listening to, interactions, that anybody in their life that was not bringing joy, love, laughter, positivity immediately cut out. And they would watch like comedy specials. They would go to comedy clubs, watching funny movies, just constant like laughter, right? To keep themselves in that vibrational state
so that begs
joy.
Begs a wild question. And I do have to say this. I'm just going to say this right now because I was just thinking it. So it's going to come out of my mouth hole. But one of the things I love about you most is I love how philosophical and smart you are. You think about this in a way different way than most people that do the things you do. And I love that about you. And I think you're very smart. That's the word for,
thanks,
intelligent.
Bro. We both think about things weird.
Yes, we do. So that brings up a good point. You're talking about watching comedies, right? To get in this mode. Like, how much do you think art can impact us spiritually? And if you do think it can at all, should everything then be positive and funny and versus like, I don't know, like death metal, we know there's a difference scientifically from listening to that music than classical music.
Well, sure. But I think that's all, again, it's going to be individual, right? And the meaning that individual is attaching to it.
No, I think, and correct me, I could be wrong here. So anyone that's listening, check this. But I think they've done studies in like heavy metal music, which I love, by the way, does something that makes you more anxious, more angry, negative. It's not the same as classical music. It's way on a different scale.
These are, you get into psychological principles of these, right? Like the meter of something, because classical music can do it too.
What do you mean?
The tempo that something's going at, if it's super fast and super rapid, like people can do it. You can actually do it with the way that you're speaking in your voice, and I'm going and I'm not stopping, and there's no sentences, and it's like that literally is done to induce anxiety. It's like literally like good experiment when you're watching movies. Listen to the fucking soundtracks.
Well,
you know what's happening and you know what's coming because of the music, because all of these different things, the cadences, whether it's major, whether it's minor, the chords that they're using, the frequencies, right? The chords.
The frequencies.
Yes. All of these things will be done intentionally to elicit different emotions.
An emotional response. And I think there's something interesting about that because people don't realize this. When it comes to film, especially, audio is the hugest part. When you're watching a movie, if the audio is bad, it's fucked.
Yeah.
It's fucked. But it has to have that. So that's interesting. That's a tactile thing. So do you think, though, that something like that could let some of these negative things come into your life? Could the art, you could say, and this is a deep conversation because I do wonder this, like the difference between someone's brain, mental state, spiritual state that only listens to classical music versus something like modern
sure, but again,
angry
there are
music, like
some
heavy metal.
classical pieces that are going to do that as well. Like, listen,
The same as heavy metal?
Go listen to a fucking Rachmaninoff piano concerto.
Have you
Okay,
ever listened to Cradle of Filth?
He was the OG fucking emo. Let me tell you.
Okay.
But anyway,
Like blast beat drums. Like, have you ever listened to that? Like, it's
yes, yes.
in classic. There's classical music that can do that effect. Like, or is it on a different scale?
Well,
Is it more intelligent?
First of all, everything's subjective, but I think it's going to come down more to like what you're trying to get at here. Everybody's going to assign different individual meanings to things. Like, I don't know, for most people, they love lilies and the smell of lilies. And, you know, if somebody brings them lilies, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is so beautiful, blah, blah, blah. Lilies to me are my signifier for fucking death. Okay?
How long has that been happening?
When I smell lilies, that means somebody's going to die. I discovered that when I was working in the medical industry. And that's how I know.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah,
Because
you know
it
what?
would
We've never
happen.
talked about this, so we are going to derail this. Like, what was that like? What was that?
Yes, it would happen when I would be taking patients. And this was long before I ever figured out the whole medium thing.
Correct,
and had
yeah.
my therapist, you know. Yes, it was. I would take patients back and, you know, do their workup, whatever. And sometimes I would get this very overwhelming smell of lilies, right?
Really?
The clairsentience. And every time,
Yeah, it would die.
yes, we would get a call. Usually
How soon
it would,
after the lily
Usually
scent?
it would be a few weeks later.
Oh, really? A few weeks, but you knew that
few
something
weeks.
was in them that was taking
Well,
them out.
I didn't know at the time
Oh,
until
okay.
I started, because, you know, so we kind of did a little bit of everything. And so sometimes I would answer the phones, you know, and yeah, the amount of calls we would get of like, hey, just calling to notify you so-and-so passed away, whatever, right? And then obviously, you know, I have access, I pull up their charts and then I'm looking at the news. I'm like, oh shit, I took this person back. Like I did their workup. Oh fuck. Like, I'm pretty sure this was the person that I was smelling lilies for, you know? And so then I start seeing these patterns, and it happened on enough occasions that I was like, this is not just a coincidence.
It's not just a coincidence. Let me pour you some more in here.
So that's
Okay.
how that came about. And that's how I ended up noticing that pattern. That was from when I was working in the medical industry. Yeah.
Did you work in the medical industry after you had done some training in the shamanic healing side of things?
No, this was all
Okay,
prior.
all prior.
This was all prior.
And do you think, how much do you think, you know, because what you said reminded me of this old movie called Patch Adams.
Yes, I have seen that before, Robin Williams.
Yeah, and
right?
he would use
Or
like
I
the
hope
humor.
you're proud of me.
Correct. I'm so proud of you. He would use the humor.
Yeah.
Right. And you think that there's something there.
Yes. Well, I mean, if we're
You've
looking
seen
at
it.
patterns, every fucking person that I talked to, at least when I was in medical, you know, granted, like I wasn't doing this for like 10 years or whatever, you know, but every fucking person that had a story like that I talked to, those were the two common denominators.
So then what we call positive or toxic positivity in the West, like, are we taking that to an extreme? Like, should that be the focus, the goal? Like the laughter, the positivity, the love, the love and light.
Yes. And I mean, of course, everything, literally everything, there's a way to take it to a fucking extreme. Okay.
Even
like
love and
again,
light?
both and girly, right? Well, when you use it in like bypassing, right? Essentially, like, sure, this is not like we're still fucking human. We're still going to have emotions. So it's not saying like, don't fucking shame yourself
Don't
if you have
feel,
a
yeah.
bad day,
Yeah.
you know, like still allow yourself to feel the normal range of human emotions. But this is also where I think the Stoic philosophy comes into play.
You're
where
big
it's
on the
like,
Stoicism, aren't you?
I do. I really like it.
A book you should read is by Darren Brown. He's one of the greatest sort of mentalists and mind readers, but he's a Stoic, and he's written books on Stoicism. And one is called Happy. And it's like, why, something to the effect of like, why everything is actually not bad. You might really enjoy it.
Do you not have it?
No, I'm not a big Stoic philosophy guy. I know a bit about it, but it's not my philosophy.
I
But
mean,
you
I
would
think
like
it's
it.
true though. You know, like it objectively, it is true. All we have control over at the end of the day is like myself, my own thoughts, my own feelings, my own reactions.
Yes.
And this is why, and I'll out us, like you've often gotten mad at me sometimes where I'll be like, okay, you know, like I'm sorry that you feel that way, you know, and I'm like, for me, I'm not doing it and as like a way to be a conversation ender or, you know, it's just a like,
Well, that's the problem I have with some way that people look at Stoicism is it can get away from feeling. It can get away from understanding in a sense where, you know, like you just said, like, oh, I'm sorry I feel that way versus actually having a care of the other person and how you fix it versus like, well, that's too bad, like that, because then it becomes a bit egotistical,
Well, sure, it can
almost
be,
narcissistic. in a
and
way, but-
that's why it gets to the point that I was saying of don't shame yourself for having feelings.
But
Like
you are still
have
existential,
feelings,
which is the point
Yes,
of stoicism,
I
to
am.
sort of get rid of that, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. It's an interesting philosophy. You would like that book, though. Where were we going with that? Stoicism?
I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
We were
Let me ask
talking
you,
about the
in your
lilies.
in your medical practice, then going back to this, how many times? This is a weird question, but how many times did you work with people or see them pass on? There's a reason for this question.
I was in an OR where a patient died once.
Okay, just one.
They did not technically die while they were still like, well, I don't know, maybe they did, but the ambulance was called and they were taken out, but once.
Okay. And I asked that because here we are and we're talking about shadow beings. You were working in the medical field in a place where people were sick, where they were suffering, where they were passing on. How many times were shadow beings involved in your experiences there, if ever?
None.
None.
Huh. 0. But again, I do believe if I had been working, let's say in a hospital,
Okay, where were you working?
I think that would be very different.
Where were you working?
It's a medical office that had an ambulatory surgical center attached to it. However, it's, and y'all have heard me talk about this before, ophthalmology. So it's not, we're
Rosin
not.
cones, baby. Is that you? Yeah.
Yes. So it's, it's very, like, it's more rare that we're going to have people that are in these, like I wasn't working in hospice or anything like that. If it had been the hospital, I think it would have been a different story. Hospitals for me, two places that give me the most fucking anxiety, that feel the fucking worst to me, antique stores.
Really? Hold on.
You've witnessed this.
Stop.
You've witnessed this.
But you love
in
going to them.
hospitals. I do love going to them. However,
Is that like your like sort of the same? Like that's like your the antique shops are like your dominatrix. You're like, just give it to me more. I hate it, but fuck, it's great. Like what is that? Because that's all we love doing is antique shops and estate sales.
I love it. But here's the thing with antique shops, and I've talked about this before, I think on in the Kate Shepard episode on RGO, where just because something feels very overwhelming to me and is shooting my anxiety through the roof doesn't necessarily equate with this is bad, or this is harmful.
It's just oversensory.
The energies can be very overwhelming. Hospitals,
Kind of like if you're scratching Hurricane's belly too much, he's like oversensory.
overstimulation.
Oh,
yes.
Overstimulation. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But hospitals, you say, are different.
Hospitals, awful.
Why?
Awful.
Can you explain
Bad.
that? Like, can you tell me?
Dude, the amount of think about a fucking hospital. How many fucking people are dying in a hospital every day? How many people are going in there and they're watching their loved ones fucking die?
So
How many people are in there suffering?
Yes, but let me also. So one of the interesting stories is when my grandpa, my mom's dad, passed away. He was a simple dude, and all he liked to do was play music down at the local community place, and he was very happy all the time, whatever. Well, on his deathbed, as he was going, he looks away from the family. He goes, "Look at all those instruments," and then out. So that seems like a positive experience to me.
Well, that is very common when you talk to nurses, and you can go look this up online.
Oh, I have.
It's very common with people who are about to die. They can tell because they will start seeing a past loved one
or things that bring them joy is really what it comes down to.
And you'll often hear a lot of people saying like, yeah, you'll see them, they'll be talking to, someone and nobody's there. Yes.
Well, let me ask this question. Like, do we have that data from atheists that are dying?
I don't know. I mean, that would certainly be an interesting study if somebody had done that.
Because if I'm being honest, if people that have belief and faith are like having experiences when they die, and atheists or not, I'm going to go with belief and faith every time. And that may be ego based because like that's scary to think that like, there's like nothing that kind of comes, which I think is actually a lazy response. But so you're saying that hospitals feel negative, even though those experiences are sometimes positive, is what I'm, I guess, kind of getting at.
I hate hospitals. Yeah.
Okay.
And
is it just because of all the emotion that's available?
Yes.
To tap into?
Because, and anybody who is sensitive to energies, like, you go in this place, you're going to feel fucking everything. And sure, yes, there's happiness because
But you're
people are
feeling the
having
sadness of the people that are
babies
there
and
that are still
whatever.
alive. Yeah. Okay.
You're feeling fucking well, you're feeling the residual shit too. It's all fucking there. You're feeling everything, at least for me. It's overwhelming as fuck. I fucking hate it. I hate hospitals. Like, there is nothing that scares me more than
Did
hospitals.
you feel any of this stuff when your mom had that big scare?
Yeah.
Really? What was that like?
When she was in the ICU.
Tell that story, because she was walking up. We saw the hill. We were in Florida.
Yeah.
And she just...
Well, I think I feel like I told it in a past episode, but the too long didn't read. Yeah, she was walking up the hill and she just dropped. And, paramedics came. She was dead basically for an hour, but they kept doing...
That's wild, actually. So I'm sorry. Let me...
Yes, my mom
dead
is
for a fucking hour.
She is a living miracle. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a very positive way to talk about your... I wish I... Yeah.
Well, she is.
Yeah. An hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she had problems,
I
didn't
think
she,
it was
remembering
like
things after a while? Like
54 minutes.
Y'all were worried because when she did come
it
back,
was
it was
like we joke
the
about
memory thing.
5-minute memory span. It was a literal 5-minute memory span. Yes. But yes, when she was in the ICU, it just felt awful the entire time. And, of course, yes, I was, worried and scared and feeling all of these awful things because my mom's fucking laying in the ICU. We don't know if she's going to live. We have the fucking organ donor people coming and trying to talk to us, you know.
Oh, really? Like trying to harvest her stuff?
Yes. And I was...
We're here for the organs.
Basically, I was the one
like
making
Men in
the
Black.
decisions.
These are lizard people. Yeah.
And that's a lot of fucking pressure. However...
Well, you made the right choice, didn't you?
Yes.
Well, she's here.
Yes.
Because you could have said, okay, just unplug her, take the organs.
Correct. I was like, fuck off. Like, dude, it hasn't even been 24 hours. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, the fucking audacity of you coming in here and even asking this right now.
Fucking organ
get
harvester.
the fuck
Ghouls.
out. And yes, I understand from the other perspective, they only have a certain time to be able to do that, whatever.
No, I think
but
you're right.
anyway.
There is no other perspective. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
So anyway, yes, it just felt awful. And even from the moment I step into a fucking hospital, even getting on the property, you just start feeling it. But when you walk in, like, my anxiety's through the fucking roof. That's why, like, I have the fucking MRI next week. I'm not looking forward to it. I don't give a shit about having a fucking MRI.
It's the hospital.
Being in a fucking hospital.
So you could never be like
a
a nurse practitioner because you're around it.
Yeah, I hate it.
Yeah.
I would have to do like the amount of practices, and that's one of the people that I'm working with for mediumship mentorship right now. She is a nurse.
Oh, really?
And so that is a lot of like what we're working on getting in place for her is these different energetic practices for basically being able to not take on all of this shit. And when you think about a nurse specifically, you're going in and like you are putting your energy into these patients. You're putting the IVs in and you're taking care of them and you're giving them their medicine.
Which I think it's worth noting that job, which is a thankless job in many ways.
Yes.
Okay. I think giving people that are suffering a positive energy, I think is one of the greatest things you can do. Okay. And I think I've got a newfound respect for nurses. Let me ask you a question. When we talk about shadow people and negative energies, which is this whole kind of thing, 2 questions. 1, you're saying you don't see them run rampant at hospitals?
Well, yes, at hospitals.
Oh, really? You see these things run rampant?
Yes.
Shadow guys?
Yes.
Okay. 2, do you see them when we go down to 6th Street, when we go down to New Orleans and see the poverty and we see really?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And do you see them, I guess what I'm at, do you see them more in these more negative areas? Shadow beings specifically. Not feelings, but the seeing of shadow beings.
Paying more attention to it now, but I mean, yeah, probably I would say so. Yeah.
So that would lead us to believe that when we
and
have
I'm talking
the discussion,
about shadow people.
Yes, specifically. Forget everything else.
Because I see little shadow like elemental things, but that's different.
Well, we've seen
not
that.
Shadow
like
people.
The little things that me and Eric both saw flying from tree to tree did not feel negative at all, to be honest with you. Okay. That was different than anything else.
Yeah, and I think some of that stuff can be like elemental.
Sure. So the shadow being, because that is the point of the conversation is that we started with is, are they good or bad or indifferent? Nicole's perspective, go. Good, bad, indifferent. Sum it up and make it black and white, because there is a yes or no answer to this. Like, do you think they're bad? Do you think they're indifferent?
I don't think that there is a yes or no answer for this. I am a both and girly. I think that probably the majority, I would say, are on the more negative spectrum. And even if that may include, let's say, a human who is passed on and they are simply just kind of, for whatever reason, in this plane of existence still, I would also view that as not good, and I'm sure that feels not good to them as well. Can some of the things be created? Like, say, the shadow thing on all fours at Hill House? Yes. Can some of them be elemental? Yes, we've seen them.
What does that mean to you, elemental, actually?
Elemental, like from the earth, like natural, like we've been here since before you.
Do you think that's
that kind
part of
stuff?
the things like the rocks, the dirt, the grass, the ground, the trees?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
just something that was here before us.
Yes, like the spirits, I guess, of the like natural things. Like, I guess that would be kind of more like Native American philosophy. Like, they talk about these things a lot, but it's stuff that, like the energy of these things, like the amalgamation of these things and the spirit of it, but anyway, are some of the shadow things like a time slip, interdimensional type deal? Probably. But the ones that are
typically
like the
negative in your mind.
Shadow people.
That's what we're talking. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
your hat mans, right? The things that we talked about with Heidi.
To the point of like this entire conversation and the various things that we've discussed. No, I haven't had any good experiences with them. Like, they're never coming up. I didn't see a fucking shadow figure walk up and drop that roll of ribbon on the table for me and, give me some finger guns, be like, I got you, bruv,
Give you some finger guns. If you imagine, I mean, we had a shadow being waved at us, but giving us finger guns.
That'd be cool as fuck, honestly.
He's fucking giving us finger.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting point, though. Like, you've not, any of the good experiences that we've had with the paranormal, we'll call it that, have never happened around shadow beings, huh?
No.
Okay. So, all that to say, Nicole and I don't know where we stand on this, but we did want to have this conversation about it because it's come up, and we've talked to people that have differing opinions that we typically, let's be honest, we would not be the girlies that were in Heidi's camp, correct? Like, for a long time, like, we would have been like, no. But there's something about experiencing this in a way that not a lot of people do, and not just looking at, like, the TV shows, and you start to understand, well, wait, there's more.
Well, that's why, and something I mentioned earlier with the length of time that Heidi has been doing this and the amount of stories she's heard and the amount of people that she's talked to.
And experiences of her own, yeah.
It's way fucking more than I'll likely ever have because this is her area of expertise. It's her specialty. It's what she's doing day in and day out. So, if we're not going, like you say it all the time. It's one of the basic tenets of science, the repeatability, right? If she's getting all of this fucking data and she's seeing this overwhelming pattern of every single one.
The people that experience these are not going through positive experiences, they're going through negative. Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm inclined to believe that research. Like, that's data. Data doesn't lie.
This is why we I think today, didn't we put out a call on Nextdoor even, looking for experiences. And I do want to say, anyone that's a listener, if you have experiences with shadow beings specifically, it doesn't have to be people, okay?
These little shadow shits.
Yes, it could be shadow shits. It could be what they call spider ones, whatever it is, shadow things in general. If you've had experience with them, I want to know that experience, okay? Because that is something I want to put in our little research file of paranormal phenomena and what it's doing. So if you had that experience, please reach out to us. Shoot us an email, DM them to us, slide in the emails or the DMs, whatever it is. Send us a text, okay? You can send us a text on Spotify.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or talk about it in a positive review where you talk about how amazing my voice is and how my hairline is really good. Yeah. So let us know that because we do want to document that because while we go to these locations and we have our own experiences, if I'm being honest, I don't think our own experiences are the way to research because they are subjective to our...
Right. It's only our lived experience.
Correct. I think real research is we want to hear more about yours and see the similarities and see that.
Find the patterns.
Find the patterns, baby. Other than that, this has been I got to tell you, Nicole, this has been a great episode because, again, I know I said it, but one of my favorite things about you is we can sit down with a serious topic that is probably one of the most serious that there is. And I can ask you very difficult, very philosophical questions, and you have answers. You don't just like look like a deer in headlights. You got an opinion on something,
Well, thanks, bruv. And when I don't, I'll tell you I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, blanket statement on all of this, I don't fucking know.
You can have a theory
Nobody
without
fucking knows.
without knowing. You can have an opinion without knowing, right? So I love that about you. I think it's great. This was an interesting conversation. It was about the shadow people, and we talked about the seance because there was that component to
That was
it.
weird as hell.
The seance?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's just like when we did with the mirror and we put the suction cup mic on it, it was like the sound of bees.
Yeah.
It was almost the same sound we got from that seance.
Yeah.
And
Which,
now
by the
we've
way,
got Denise's daughter seeing UFOs. Last time it was Rachel.
Yeah. Which, by the way, just quick shout out for the seance for any of our Para Academy people that are out of town. If you obviously were not able to attend in person, the video of it, because we did have my camera or my computer live streaming the whole thing for anybody who wanted to participate, but virtually, that is up in Patreon for you for Para Academy.
And it's actually pretty wild.
It is. I haven't gone back and listened to it yet, so I do hope that it was able to pick up some of the radio shit that was going on, because it was insane. But yeah, that is up there, so you can see, we walk you through the whole fucking ritual and everything with us.
Last question for you in the episode. Did you see shadow beings around Annabelle?
No.
Of course not.
I felt nothing.
Nothing. Do you think that it was the rumor that the real Annabelle was not there? I've heard people say that the rumor is that they did not bring the real Annabelle. Do you think that they would do that? Or do you think that they actually give a fuck? Do you think they actually think that doll is haunted?
Yeah, I mean, what would the motivation be for not bringing the real Annabelle?
Well, it's kind of like using a stand-in if you're a celebrity and you're walking. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I don't know what the point of doing that would even be.
But you didn't feel anything as the big one.
No, I didn't feel anything.
No shadow beings around Annabelle.
I didn't see anything. I didn't fucking feel anything. I'm going to be real.
There
Did
it
I
is.
have a heat stroke that day? Also, yes.
Could that be Annabelle? No, it could be 103-degree weather. And we actually put ourselves in a box that was like an oven because we're idiots.
Well, listen, I got the fucking portable AC unit because I figured if we had a tent with walls on it that it would cool it,
Yeah.
Because it would keep the cool air in.
We are so thankful, I want to say this for you in the episode, for all of our bruvs that are able to show us how stupid we are in certain moments, because we would have killed ourselves. Eric said, you got to take these walls out of the tent. It's making you an oven. You're cooking in here. And we did, and it felt better. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Marcel and Rachel, for helping. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening. If you have comments, concerns, or stories, please let us know. Also, go listen to the Real Ghost Stuff podcast. That is our second podcast, and we are diving into more shadow being stuff there.
Yeah, we just did the
listener
episode
story
recorded earlier. Yeah, listener stories
where
she
you
was
literally
talking
hear about a shadow spider on a girl's
spiders.
head. That's not good.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah.
That's not good. Let us know what you think. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know your stories. And you know what? We'll read them on RGO, maybe on a listener story. Maybe we go on a shadow person kick. And if your stories are radical or scary.
Listen, I'm always on a shadow person kick.
Yeah.
I've been on a shadow person kick since I was a fucking kid.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry that just brought this up as the last question before we stop. I'm so sorry. You as someone who has seen these as a kid growing up around your bed all the time, if you think that they're inherently typically negative, what does that mean for why that's happening to you?
Well, according to the episode of what Heidi said, she said that especially, and I've also been binging her podcast as well.
You love her since that conversation, huh?
Well, I just, knowledge. I want to know more things.
Well, we both said that when we got off the conversation with her, regardless of if we agreed with her, she does not feel like she's making this shit up.
No, she's extremely sincere.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, I want to get to know you more. Like, what's so special about you that these things are surrounding you, and she's said it on the podcast now that as I've been listening to it, she's like, in my experience and the stories and the people I've talked to, it's people who are just innately able to have this connection, tap into these things, mediumistic abilities, whatever, and, see these things, know these things that other people just don't. And they want to isolate you, make you weaker, make you depressed, make you anxious.
Well, here's what's interesting. Maybe, and you see this all the time, whether it's serious mediums or serious artists that I think feel these things and see these things, it's almost like they want to take those people and put them in situations that make them go to agitation, to anxiety, to depression, to negativity. Because if you are a beacon, a lighthouse, they can suck that light out of you versus someone that doesn't have that innately. Maybe that's the message of this podcast is don't let the shadow figure take your light.
Well, don't let anybody take your light. Don't dim your light for anybody.
Certainly not shadow figures.
Yeah, fuck them shadow figures.
Fuck them, stupid bros.
Fuck that horse.
Speaking of, you ready for pizza?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Let's make some pizza, darling.
We actually have fucking pizza today. I was saying this earlier. I'm like, how many fucking episodes have we ended at this point where I'm like, I want pizza?
Well, we had a whole episode called ES Pizza.
Yeah. And I think that was the last time we fucking had pizza.
Is it really?
I think so.
It's too long. It's too long. Let's make pizza.
How dare you keep me from pizza for this long?
Because we made an interesting choice.
Monster!
You monster. Let's make pizza and have wine and let's put more shit on our Marian altar and just hope that we're not fucked.
And put on Gossip Girl.
That's what you wanna watch?
XOXO.
Okay.
Gossip Girl.
All right, darling. You want to preheat the oven?
Yeah.
Great. We're having pizza. See you guys. Thanks for listening. If you made it this far, whatever. Let us know your thoughts. Bye.
Okay, bye.